Peter Navarro is President Trump's top trade and manufacturing advisor. He is joining us live from the White House lawn. His new op-ed in the Wall Street Journal urgently makes the case for fast passage of a generous package targeted to small business and the most vulnerable Americans. Navarro stressing, quote, the U.S. still faces significant headwinds from the pandemic, which has restructured transportation, entertainment, hotels, restaurants, and commercial real estate. Adding to these structural woes is the prospect of renewed lockdowns across the 50 states. Peter, welcome. Is the $908 billion bipartisan stimulus bill that's circulating right now on the Hill strong enough to provide the lifeline you envision?
Here's what I'm concerned about, Liz. We're about 2 months late and $1 trillion short to help millions of Americans avoid the pain and suffering they're feeling now. Unfortunately, the relief bill got caught up in politics. I think it was pretty clear that the Democrats didn't want anything to help President Trump. But now we're facing what I see as a chasm, and I did not love that report today on unemployment. You clearly see what I've referred to as the second derivative problem in math. You know, we've had the trends going up in terms of being positive for the unemployment rate and things like that. But clearly, that's the first derivative, but clearly at a decreasing rate. That's the second derivative. And what we're going to see fairly quickly now is a flip over where that unemployment rate is going to start going back up. And in fact, if you combine, Liz, this is important, if you combine the number of people who dropped out of the labor force with those in the count for the 6% number, we actually saw a slight uptick in the unemployment rate. So my message to Capitol Hill is get your act together, get it done quickly. The three components are pretty clear. We need a reboot on the PPP program for the small businesses. That was extremely effective, as Tyler Goodspeed and I document in the op-ed. I think we need another stimulus check. And also we need a reboot of our unemployment compensation. We can't go back to that $600 all one-size-fits-all states things, but we need to calibrate it in a way which will provide some relief. So we need to move. Yeah. We need to move.
Yeah. Okay, you just said $1 trillion short. I've got to ask you, you are going against what some GOP senators said back in October. They suddenly decided they did not have an appetite for a big package. I'm talking about Mike Lee of Utah, Marsha Blackburn. We also had Ron Johnson, Lamar Alexander speaking out against it. So you're basically pushing back from GOP senators and breaking with them and saying, we actually do need this money.
I'm just the macro guy looking at the chessboard here, Liz. And when I say $1 trillion short, I mean an additional trillion. You know, there was this debate between the Republicans. They were ready to go for a $1 trillion package. They had that on the table. Pelosi wanted $3 trillion. What I'm saying is, at a minimum, we need those three parts of the puzzle, and that probably gets us to the $900 billion or $1 trillion that's on the table. But the point is that there's this. We need this fiscal bridge. You know, we got the vaccines coming, thanks to Donald J. Trump, coming in the spring, in full force. But now, I mean, we're seeing, Liz, it's like, we got to understand there's all these service sector refugees. This economy has structurally changed. You know, the old days of restaurants, entertainment, major metropolitan areas, that's not coming back for a while.
Well, sure. In fact, you know, I picked apart the unemployment and the jobs number here. Yeah. Retail lost 35,000 jobs because of less seasonal hiring. I know that restaurants, as we know in California, that they're banning in some cities the outdoor restaurant eating opportunities here. I'm very worried, as you are, Peter. But my question is, if you had Mitch McConnell's ear, and quite frankly, don't denigrate yourself, the macro picture is extraordinarily important here. Yeah. What would you say to him?
Well, it's not about Mitch. It's not about Nancy. It's about Capitol Hill. Those folks need to look at the chessboard, read the op-ed in the Journal that Tyler Goodspeed and I wrote yesterday. It lays the problem out. It lays the solution out. And all I'm saying is that we should have done this months ago. And the longer we wait, we run a really strong risk of having this economy not in the place where we want to be. Now, the market's doing great, but let's think about what it's parsing. It's like we're in a bullish uptrend, right? So bad news comes out on the unemployment numbers. So a lot of the guys are thinking, okay, well, that means the probability of a stimulus goes up. So the market goes up. But this is the difference between Wall Street and Main Street. I'm telling you, Liz, the people on Main Street, there's a lot of pain and suffering there. President Trump knows this very well. And what we need to do now as a country is to move to phase 4 and take care of the American people right now and be cognizant of this chessboard where we're seeing these structural adjustments. And they could be persistent, they could be permanent.
Peter, you said on this network on November 14th that you were operating on the premise that there would be a second term for President Trump as all of these challenges to the election outcome that had Joe Biden winning, that you were operating on the fact that, hey, we're going to have a second term with President Trump. Since then, close to 50 different lawsuits have been filed on behalf of either the Trump campaign or allies to President Trump, and many of them have been outright rejected, in some cases by judges who President Trump had actually appointed. These are Federalists, Republicans, conservatives, etc. Does anything change now, 3 weeks later? Have you spoken with the transition team as you and that White House behind you are, in a way, readying to move on?
I have nothing to do with the transition, and I've not been asked on that. What I think is important over the next 7 to 14 days is to let this legal process play out. Everything I'm seeing, Liz, tells me that this election was stolen. Everything I'm seeing across 6 states. I mean, to the point.
Why do judges not see that, Peter?
Well, let's take the Wisconsin.
More than 24 judges do not see that.
Let's take the Wisconsin case, for example. The only thing that happened in the Wisconsin case yesterday was it was remanded back to a district court. It's going to come back to them, and they'll decide. What I would tell you, looking across this, again, this electoral issue, you've got strong issues of voter fraud. I mean, there's more suitcases down where they were counting ballots than the Atlanta airport. I mean, you saw that video. That video in and of itself should just blow out any idea that Georgia election was fair. So you've got these fraud issues. You have got these ballot process issues where not inadequate voter ID checks. You've got all manner of process files going on in places like Wisconsin where they changed the mail-in ballot. You've got vote tabulation
well, we can't litigate
issues.
It here, but I just wanted to clarify.
My point is that
you don't have the boxes ready to pack up your stuff in your office.
This is the immaculate deception on the American people. It's been called the finesse. But I think what's important is let's let the process play out. Liz, everybody in America needs to be comfortable with the idea that this election was fair. And right now, we don't have that comfort level based on what the evidence is. So let's let it play out. Let's not.
The process.
And
indeed.
The problem is, look, let me say one last thing. The problem is that we're getting fed
Peter.
The news by the New York Times, Washington Post. Everybody's like shading the truth about what's actually going on. So we're not getting a clear signal.
News.
A lot of news.
Fox News.
You guys are doing a good job.
Given some news that isn't exactly friendly to what President Trump believes happens, but we do just want to make sure that we are, I agree, letting the process go through. Peter, we'll have you back. Thank you so much. Yeah. Everybody should check out Peter's op-ed in the Wall Street Journal saying stimulus now.